Imagine that you wake up after 20 years because the doctors misdiagnosed you. Because that's exactly what happened to this woman named April, and her case may actually transform the field of psychiatry. This is your Wednesday morning DeFranco Daily, and let's just jump into it. Right? Because for her entire life, she was mentally sharp. She was a high school valedictorian, a straight A student, and then went on to study accounting at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Then, in 1995, when she was 21, she suffers this traumatic event that triggers psychosis. And she becomes absolutely lost in a constant state of visual and auditory hallucination. She's basically locked inside her own world, totally disconnected from reality. And after a few months at a short-term psychiatric hospital, she's diagnosed with severe catatonic schizophrenia. With her family taking care of her, she can no longer communicate, much less bathe or feed herself. And unfortunately, despite their best efforts, they can't give her the constant care that she needs. So in 2000, they send her to Pilgrim Psychiatric Center in Long Island. And it's there that we meet Dr. Sander Marks. Right? And at this point, he's just a fresh young med student recently arriving in the US from the Netherlands. And when he finds April just standing at the nursing station one day, he can't believe how dysfunctional she is. Explaining she would just stare and just stand there. She wouldn't shower, she wouldn't go outside, she wouldn't smile, she wouldn't laugh. And the nursing staff had to physically maneuver her, even describing her as, to this day, the sickest patient I've ever seen. But Marks at this point is just a student. There's really not much he can do for her, so he ends up just moving on with his career. Meanwhile, you have April's doctors trying everything from antipsychotics and mood stabilizers to electroconvulsive therapy, but nothing works. But then, in 2018, thanks to one massive coincidence, things change. By this time, Marks has his own lab, he's a successful researcher, hell, he's even friendly with Oliver Sacks. And he recommends one of his research fellows go study at Pilgrim, just like he had done in his youth. And that researcher goes down there, encounters a catatonic woman at the nurse's station, then returns to Marks to talk about her. With Marks saying it was like deja vu because he starts telling the story, and I'm like, is her name April? So he's shocked. She's still there. She's still catatonic, and he goes back to figure out what the fuck's going on. But also, he's not just a young man by himself. He brings the cavalry with him. We're talking a multidisciplinary team of more than 70 experts from around the world. Neuropsychiatrists, neuroimmunologists, rheumatologists. If it's hard for my fat tongue to say, they were there. And the first big clue that they find comes from her blood work, which shows her immune system producing way too many antibodies. And then subsequent brain scans showing that the antibodies are attacking her brain's temporal lobes, which are linked to schizophrenia. So now the big question isn't what is wrong, it's what's making her immune system act up. And their best guess, and you know what it is if you ever watched House back in the day, is lupus, an autoimmune disease that attacks the body. And luckily, lupus is treatable, so Marks and his team get to work, pumping April full of steroids for 5 straight days, once a month for 6 months straight, also giving her 2 drugs normally used to treat cancer. All of this meant to beat back her over-aggressive immune system and hopefully take some of the heat off of her brain, with all of it leading to the moment of truth. They give April a standard cognitive test where she's asked to draw a clock. Before the treatment, she was only able to make indecipherable scribbles, but after just 3 months, her clock was almost perfect. And then, at the end of her treatment, Marks visits April one last time before going back to the Netherlands, and he expects to find her catatonic as usual in the dining room. But instead, he walks in, he doesn't even recognize her, saying it didn't look like the person I had known for 20 years and had seen so impaired. And then I look a little closer and I'm like, holy shit, it's her. And in 2020, 2 decades after checking in, April is deemed mentally competent enough to discharge herself from Pilgrim. Though do keep in mind, she hasn't 100% recovered, right? She still has psychosis. And so ever since then, she's been staying at a rehab center. But last year, the old April reunited with her family face to face for the first time. When I say like the old April, I really mean it because she remembers everything pretty much right up to the day she became schizophrenic. Right? It's like she went through a time warp. Right? She was a 21-year-old Clinton's president. All of a sudden, boom, wait, what's 9/11? Wait, Donald Trump's president? Who? It's a global pandemic, people protesting in the streets. But here's one of the biggest concerns, right? Because this story is incredible. But it also got Marks and many others wondering how many other patients have been written off as lost causes for years or even decades. And so because of this whole thing with April, he puts out this alert, and researchers in the New York State mental health care system identifying about 200 patients with autoimmune diseases who may be helped by this discovery. And in fact, there are now discussions underway to extend the search to the 20,000 outpatients in the New York State system as well. So with all this, you have psychiatrists worldwide speculating that a small but significant number of people with schizophrenia or other psychotic disorders may just have underlying autoimmune diseases. And Mark's saying these are the forgotten souls. We're not just improving the lives of these people, but we're bringing them back from a place that I didn't think they could come back from. And so while with this situation, there is pain and suffering happening, out of nowhere, hope has emerged. A flicker of light in a once pitch black room. And then people are waking up this morning to the news that the 5 people on the Titanic submersible that disappeared the other day may in fact actually still be alive. Though of course you have experts still expressing a lot of caution. And that's because according to the Associated Press, a Canadian military surveillance aircraft detected underwater noises as a massive search continued on Wednesday. And Rolling Stone magazine citing what it described as internal U.S. Department of Homeland Security emails on the search, saying that teams heard banging sounds in the area every 30 minutes. Which is why we've seen a number of people saying, this gives us so much more hope than we previously previously had, but also we don't know what the sounds are. And so you have this search continuing, but right now, the unfortunate reality is if those 5 people are still alive, it's believed that they will run out of oxygen in less than 24 hours. And for now, that's where we are. And then Nicholas Malvagna is currently in the middle of just not having a good time. Though before you're like, oh no, poor baby, what happened? Because Nicholas threw his phone at pop star BB Rexha and she got a black eye from it. Where she was performing on stage in New York City on Sunday night and video footage shows a phone pelting her in the face. With her having to be escorted off stage, you see her holding her eye while she exits. In fact, they had to take her to the hospital where she got stitches. But luckily, she still has her vision and she updated fans on Instagram saying she's good, but also showing photos of the big bruise and the stitches on and above her eye. With it being reported that the assailant admitted to throwing the phone and adding, I was trying to see if I could hit her with the phone at the end of the show because it would be funny. But we're now seeing different reports because at his arraignment on Monday, according to the Manhattan prosecutor, Nicholas told the arresting officers, it's a TikTok trend where you throw your phone onto the stage and a celebrity passes it and takes a selfie. I thought she was looking in my direction. I was about 2 rows back, but instead of my phone landing right next to her, my phone hit her in the face. But again, notably, in the criminal complaint, Malvagna said, I was trying to see if I could hit her with the phone at the end of the show because it would be funny. And so with this news, I only got 2 things to say to Nick. One is, don't be stupid. And 2, you might be our douchebag of the day. And then, the feds have filed charges against Hunter Biden. According to court documents released yesterday, the president's son has been charged with 2 misdemeanor counts of willfully failing to pay taxes in 2017 and 2018, as well as being charged with a felony for illegally purchasing a gun in 2018 while using drugs. But, very notably here, and we often see this in the case of elites, Hunter Biden isn't actually expected to face any jail time for those charges because he made a plea deal with the feds to plead guilty to the 2 tax charges in order to avoid jail, and it being widely reported that the prosecutors are recommending probation. And as for the firearm charge, Hunter's also entered into what's known as a pre-trial diversion agreement, which is a fancy way of saying that charge will be dropped as long as he meets certain conditions. And according to reports, those conditions include Hunter remaining drug-free for 24 months and agreeing to never own a firearm again, and admitting he illegally possessed a handgun because he was addicted to drugs at the time of purchase. But as far as what happens from here, the plea deal has to still be approved by a federal judge, and there, Hunter's set to appear in a Delaware federal court within a few days. But also, this isn't the end, because while you have Hunter's attorney saying in a statement that this deal means that the 5-year-long investigation into his client is resolved, the U.S. attorney for Delaware, who's leading prosecution in this case, contradicted that, saying the probe is ongoing. And beyond that, Republican lawmakers in Congress have responded to this news by saying they will continue to investigate the Biden family. And many conservatives also using this news to further bolster their ongoing attacks on the DOJ and claiming that this is a sweetheart deal and Hunter was let off too easily. But ultimately, with all that, I gotta let you know, that is not the end for all the news you need to know about today. Rather, this is just the first of 2 Philip DeFranco shows I'm uploading for Wednesday. Consider this your bonus Wednesday morning Philip DeFranco show, and then boom, right back here on this channel at the regular time around 3 p.m. Pacific at the latest, you're getting the full regular Philip DeFranco show for the day. In fact, if that video is already up, you can click or tap right there. Otherwise, if you're one of my favorite people and you got to this video super fast, I am pointing to nothing. And if that's the case, just make sure you're subscribed with all notifications turned on. And yeah, if you like getting filled in twice in one day, hit that like button.